this one is fascinating to me for a number of reasons. Let's talk Big 12. Now, when I look at the Big 12, it looks like Texas is the favorite, plus 300. Kansas, who won the league again for the billionth time in the regular season, plus 350. Baylor, plus 450. Kansas State, plus 650. Iowa State, plus 650. TCU, plus 850. West Virginia, 15-1. Oklahoma State, 30-1. And Texas Tech and Oklahoma around 40-1, which I think is crazy with Oklahoma. I mean, Oklahoma's probably the best last place team in the history of any league, which is crazy. Just shows the depth of the Big 12. But I have a couple questions for you. Now, we also have like 2 of the 10 teams in this league won't have the coach that they started with, which is a fascinating storyline because it looks like Mark Adams is done at Texas Tech, or at least won't be coaching this year. But where do you want to start, top half or bottom half of the brackets? I have a couple questions for you to kind of guide us through this.
Let's go top half to start. We'll save our TCU Horned Frogs love for the second half.
Well, yeah, and spoiler alert, I hope TCU loses in the first round, but I want them to just get healthy, but whatever. We'll get to that in a second. Top half, you have Kansas is the 1 seed. And the way that I look at this, I don't see any value in Kansas at their current number. They're going to play the winner of West Virginia or Texas Tech. Who knows what you're going to get with Texas Tech just mentally? Do they rally? Is it just a complete distraction against West Virginia, who I think is now officially clinched its turn of birth? Now, West Virginia played Kansas tough recently, but you have to assume Kansas is going to get by that. Now, look, I should mention this tournament starts Wednesday, goes to Saturday. It's in Kansas City, so you have a little bit of a home slant for Kansas as well. But when I look at the top half, the reason that I kind of want to fade Kansas is they haven't been playing that great down the stretch. I mean, you got blown out of Texas. They barely beat West Virginia. They barely beat Texas Tech. And I think a lot of that has to do with their lack of depth. They were like Jalen Wilson, it was 0 of 18 from 3. Now he had some shooting regression coming, but it's just the legs. Now, I think they'll be fine come the NCAA tournament, but they might not be built for 3 in 3 days, right? That last day, their legs might not be there, might not be. So just from a price perspective, from a lack of depth, I mean, a couple of these games lately, I think against Texas Tech, it was just Yesufu played like 9 minutes and that was it. And they just rolled with their other 5 for most of the game. So then I look at, okay, Baylor or Iowa State. And that's really what I wanted to ask you about. Iowa State rolled them twice in the regular season, most recently at Baylor. And the news with Iowa State is Caleb Grill was kicked off the team, but they responded in a big way, and they were using like switching defenses. Their zone just gave Baylor a lot of issues. So my question for you on that top half, if you can share any thoughts you have on that top half, is does Iowa State is just a bad matchup for Baylor, and we should look at Iowa State, but they just played them. So the other side of the coin is there's something that Baylor can do, right? So they're going to be able to make the adjustments. They just played. Is there some value in Baylor? Okay, we just got embarrassed by Iowa State. And so I was kind of thinking Baylor here is the team, but I am partly afraid that Iowa State's just a bad matchup with their defense. What are your thoughts on the top half?
Yeah, that's kind of where I land, is that it does seem like a bad matchup because I don't really believe in Iowa State. Like, they were playing very poorly before that game. I think they'd lost 4 in a row since the NCAA tournament bracket reveal had them as a 3 seed and just kind of plummeted. Now they recovered, getting rid of Grill. I've heard that the teammates didn't love playing with him towards the end. And so maybe there was like a burden off their shoulders with that. And they went super cancerous. They went super deep into their bench in that game. Like, they played a walk-on for 2 minutes in the first half. Like, Otzelberger was like, we're just going to totally open it up. And the defense looked really, really good against a team that's kind of ISO heavy. They've got solid individual defenders. They got bigger guards to throw at Flagler and Cryer. And I think that gives them issues with their length. I like Baylor more in a vacuum, but I'm with you. What we've seen between these two head to head is bad matchups. Like in that one just now on Saturday, Iowa State shot 63% inside the arc and Baylor shot 36. Like that's a real problem if you can't get any sort of easy looks and the other team is. So I don't love Iowa State in a vacuum, but I'm not going to bet Baylor here because it seems like a bad matchup.
Yeah, I mean, I'm a seller of Iowa State too in general. I mean, that was, but to show you how well they just might match up with Baylor, and I think Jordan Jeske brought this up on Twitter. Like the zone that Iowa State was playing just prevented Baylor from getting all of the ISOs that they like to just hunt and then utilize their strength at guard. But that was the first road win for, like, obviously Hilton is a great home court advantage. That was the first road win for Iowa State in 2 months since early January, and they won by 15. So yeah, so I don't know. Like, I would lean Baylor, but I'm afraid of the matchup. And I just don't know if there's enough juice to get me there on West Virginia.
Yep,
And
I
I
want a
don't know
little
where
bit better
Texas
price
Tech
on
is.
Westphal for sure. I
Yep.
was Westphal would have been like my look there, but the price isn't quite friendly enough.
Yep. So I might be skipping the top half. Let me move to the bottom half. Really fascinating couple of matchups here. So you have Oklahoma State, where Oklahoma State dominated Oklahoma in both meetings. Texas dominated Oklahoma State in both meetings. Oklahoma took Texas to the wire in both games. So really interesting dynamic there. Oklahoma probably like a pick is what that, close to a pick is what that spread will be. Oklahoma State's just not the same team without Anderson, I think. Like, you were starting to see that down the stretch. They had a big effort at Texas Tech, but just in general, they really miss his shot creation. He's obviously a great on-ball defender too. But winner of Oklahoma State takes on Texas, who's the favorite here. And then Texas, if they get by that matchup, will take on the winner of Kansas State TCU. Now, Kansas State, I'm a seller of Kansas State. People love this Kansas State team. Or like, I hear, I see people in my mentions saying Final Four, they're going to win it all. I am so far from that. They've been dominant at home for what it's worth, and they've been a completely different team away from home, similar to Iowa State. And they'll play TCU, who I have, power rated higher than Kansas State. TCU at full strength to me is a top 5 team. They split in the regular season, but Kansas State blew them out when Miles didn't play. And TCU blew them out the other meeting. And it's a great matchup on paper for TCU. Kansas State's an awful transition defense, and you can just dominate the offensive glass against them. But my question is, like, is Lampkin going to play? How healthy is TCU? How much do they want to really win it and go at this Big 12 tournament more so than let's just rest up? We're not getting a 1 seed. We're not getting a 2 seed. Once you roll the ball out there, you're going to try and win. But it's like a mindset thing. With Roy Williams and the old Carolina teams, they used to say, like, he doesn't really want to win the conference tournament. So, but they're plus 850 compared to Kansas State. That game is going to be a pick at worst. So that's odd to me. What are your thoughts on the bottom half?
Yeah, we've talked about it a lot, how much we both love this TCU team. And I get the sentiment of like wanting them to get healthy and don't go out here, but I don't know if they're going to listen to us, unfortunately. I think they're going to try to win this thing. And I'm skeptical.
But the one thing they could do is sit out Lampkin. That's the one thing that they could do.
But Cork is pretty solid inside, and then they've got their army of 6'7" forwards that can just assault the glass too. It doesn't totally cripple them without Lampkin. I mean, I want the best version involves Lampkin for sure, but I think they can still compete. And yeah, I'm with you on K-State. They're prone to tough outings if either Noel or Keontae Johnson plays poorly. Like, they're so reliant on 2 guys. Desi Sills missed the last game of the regular season too. I don't love K-State there either. And that when you're talking about that price discrepancy, the TCU price is way more appealing to me than the Kansas State one. I can't get there with K-State right here.
Yeah, I mean, Kansas State's defense has been elite. Their 3-point defense has been elite all year. Their 2-point defense, you can get them at the rim. TCU doesn't shoot threes. They want to get everything at the rim or in transition or on the offensive glass. Those are the 3 weak areas. Also, Kansas State will TCU can turn Kansas State over and then get out in transition. So I think this is a great matchup for TCU. Like, I think I have to take plus 850 with them, even though I don't want to, right?
Yeah, and they've played Texas really well both times. They kind of controlled both, and at Austin they let them back in, and Texas actually won. And at TCU they like allowed a backdoor in the final minute or something to not cover -3, but like they were up double digits in both games, like played them really, really well. So if you get to that semifinal, kind of an appealing matchup for them there as well.
Well, and then if you get Kansas, which would be the favorite to come out of the top half, then you're getting them in third game in 3 days with no depth.
And
So I think we
TCU
just
boat raced them in Allen Fieldhouse. So
yeah. So Kansas City shouldn't be an issue. All right, yeah. Plus, if we're not going to hit the TCU national title future, then this will be a nice consolation prize, even if it, someone gets banged up again. So I think I just have to take TCU. I was shocked that I figured that they would be the same exact price as Kansas State.
Yep.
Right?
That would have made more sense. I mean, it's like 1 point on Ken Palm. Maybe not everybody believes in TCU power rating like the way you and I do, having them even or slightly better than K-State, but we got to trust our guns there.
Yeah. As far as first round matchups or any other potential matchups down the line, I mean, I'm going to play Kansas. If TCU is a dog against Kansas State, I'm going to play them there, or even a pick. I'm playing TCU for the matchup.
Also intrigued by the over there, 75 and 76 possessions this year, the 2 games that they played. I think that'll be track meetish.
Yep. Well, that's how TCU wants to play. And if you turn it over and allow them to get in transition, which Kansas State will do, and you can't defend in transition, I think they're 20th percentile per synergy, TCU is going to fill it up. And they can get to the rim. So yeah, I don't mind that overlook. Is there anything you can do with West Virginia, Texas Tech, or is it, I don't know how Texas Tech's going to respond to this, I'm staying away?
Yeah, I think I'm probably staying away. Like Jeff Goodman tweeted that like the players want him gone. Like they're sick of playing for him. So I could see that being like a breath of fresh air where it's good. It's a relief to have him out of there. We've seen that in a couple places. I think Wofford played really well after McCauley left. I remember Seattle like 2 seasons ago when Hayford got out of there. They played really well under Victor. I could see that being like a boost to them. So I'm going to stay away. I'm going to sit that one out.
And then any thoughts on Oklahoma State, Oklahoma first round matchup?
Yeah, I want to say Oklahoma State owns them because they controlled both matchups, but Avery Anderson played in both games. So I don't know how much him being removed from that concoction changes the dynamic of it. So definitely lean to Oklahoma State because of the athleticism and they're okay playing isolation on offense and the Porter Moser under screening defense forces that. But without Anderson, I'm not super enthused about it.
Yeah, certainly a different team.